This is a video for parents who are hoping to support their child with early phonics. At Quarry Hill Academy, we follow the scheme Read Writing, and we use all of their materials and resources to support us in delivering effective phonic group sessions of 20-minute sessions at a time. Some of the things I'm going to share with you today will hopefully support you at home in ways that you can help your children with learning the initial sounds explored in Set 1 Phonics. In Read Writing, we have a special character called Fred, who helps us with being able to blend and read simple words of CVC letters, which is consonant, vowel, consonant, and beginning to build up to longer sentences and beginning to write. We have our initial sound cards, which look like this, where we share each sound that the letter is making. In the beginning, we do not share what the letter name is until the children are beginning to use the sounds. Once they're confident with the sounds, they begin to use the letter name and the sound within their daily work. Some of these letters have different sounds that you may not be familiar with. So we're going to go through a speedy sound session similar to what we would do in class, just so that you can hear what the sound of each letter is and how we use that. We try to make sure that we move our mouth wide so that children can see what the letter should look like when we're saying it and hear the sounds. So we'll go through a speedy sound lesson as we would do in class. A, S, D, T, I, G, O, A, B, S, E, O, Sh, R, J, V, Y, W, Z, Ch, Qu, X, Nk, Ng. You may notice that some of these sounds are taught in a different order that you may not be used to. We teach them in this order as this helps children to begin to start putting them together into familiar short words that they can then decode and read as one whole word, which we call blending. Some of these sounds you'll notice have more than one letter. We call these diagraphs, when two letters join together to make one sound. We also call these special friends in Read Writing, and these start to turn into 3 sounds as children become more confident with Set 2 and Set 3. These are called trigraphs. We do encourage the children to know these as diagraphs and trigraphs, as this is the correct terminology for phonics. But within the programme of Read Writing, they are sometimes still referred to as special friends. We will be using these in some simple words within Set 1, but that's more towards the end of them exploring this set. At the start of every Read Writing session when they're in Set 1, we'll go through these sounds at speed once they begin to be more confident. It's important to do them at speed so that children will begin to recognise them by sight and not relying on the pictures. On the back of each picture card, there is a rhyme that children use to help them to be able to form the sound and the letter. So for the letter M, sound the rhyme on the back is Maisie, mountain, mountain. We use this within our sessions to help them remember how to form the letter. We go down Maisie and over the mountains. Maisie, mountain, mountain. And we keep referring to this throughout the whole session so that by the time they come to writing this, they're really familiar with the rhyme. At the start of the session, we'll introduce this sound with just the sound initially, no card. So we would say our sound of the day is and we use my turn, your turn, so that children listen and then they copy. And then the children would repeat. We then show them the letter and we say, and they would repeat. We then turn the card over and share with them the rhyme of the day. Maisie, mountain, mountain. And we would discuss what we see. So we can see Maisie and we can see the mountains. Maisie, mountain, mountain. And we would say this a few times and we'd play a quick game of showing them the side where it's just the sound and then the side with the rhyme and see if they can repeat it back to us. We'd then hide this sound in the pack of cards they've already learnt, and as we go through them at speed, we would see if they could put their thumbs up if they see the sound of the day. Once again, it's just checking their recognition and then knowing what sound we're focusing on for that session. Once we feel they've got a secure knowledge of what the sound is that we're exploring, we begin to put it into context. And the way that we do that initially is by using picture cards. And all of the pictures within the pack start with that initial sound. So all of these pictures start with and we begin to go through them and learning how to hear the initial sound and then say the word, very similar to what they will do with written word. When we hold the card to our chest, we say the initial sound. When we push it out, we say the word. For example, moon. And we would do my turn, your turn. So it would be my turn first of all, and I would say moon. Then the children would have a turn. Moon. We go through each picture until the children are feeling really confident, and this is done at speed. We then recap what each of the pictures are and move on to the next stage of our phonics session. The next stage is then putting into practice what we've learnt so far. So the children begin to write the sound. And here we can see how this would start. The teacher would model the initial sound and write it on the board, just saying the sound, Then they would model using the rhyme, Maisie, mountain, mountain, and the adult would draw the picture. We don't expect the children to draw the picture at this time. We just want them to focus on the sound. But we use this to remind them of how we get the shape of this letter, Maisie, mountain, mountain. Children understanding that there's a straight line for Maisie and then two curved lines for the two mountains. Children would then have a try at writing this on their board and be supported by their adult. Once children have explored writing the sound, we then bring out a special friend who's going to help us, and that's Fred. Fred is the character for Read Write Ink that helps the children to begin early reading. Fred is able to use something called Fred Talk, which is to say each individual sound, but he's not yet able to push them together and blend them for reading. That's where the children can help him. Fred will often sit on the shoulder of the adult that is leading the session so that children can keep helping him throughout the whole time that they're learning. We then start to explore in our last section of the phonics session some words. And once again, all of the words that are used within this teaching part all link to the initial sound that they're exploring in that session. So these words would all start with and have that in the wording. Underneath, you'll see that there are some red dots. We call these sound buttons. And this just reminds the children that each of these letters are making their own sound. If there was a trigraph or a diagraph in any of these words, the dot would be replaced with a dash so that children can see that the two letters are joining together to make one sound. And we just ask them to check if there are any dots or dashes before they start. Similarly to the pictures, we use the word cards and we use our Fred Talk. Fred Talk is when children are saying the individual sounds and then blending them together to make the word. When we hold it at our chest, we're using our initial sounds in Fred Talk. When the adult pushes it forward, the children blend those sounds together to make the word, and this is how it would sound. Mum. We do this slightly faster in class so that children continue to hear those sounds and push them together in their heads. So for example, in this word, we would say met, 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 met. By the time we reach the front, the children will be able to read the word independently. Once children have explored Fred Talk for a little while and they begin to get more confident, we can move on to Fred in our head. This is where we've helped Fred enough that he can say the sounds in his head And then we can blend them together. And this is what that would look like. Fred in our head. We then do it slightly faster. And then the children would say met. Once they've been able to do it in their head, they are then blending that out loud. Once children begin to feel really confident with Fred in their head, and this could take some time throughout a few sessions, they might be ready to read this by sight. And we call that speedy green word. We call them green words because green words in Read Write Inc are words that are decodable. They are able to be broken down into initial sounds or special friends, as it's referred to in Read Write Inc when two sounds come together to make one. We can then start to do that speedy, and we can do speedy green words where they say it by sight. We begin to assess this in the lesson to see which words children are saying quickly and by sight. We can then make a pile of those words that will be referred to in all the subsequent lessons throughout the week. The more they start to see those words growing, their confidence builds, and we can then start reading books. All of these strategies are put into one session, and this is repeated daily with different initial sounds and different words that they may be using. This is a great way to keep it regular and consistent, and with a regular routine, children begin to understand the structure of our lessons, and they begin to do this by rote. We make our sessions fun and engaging by using some Read Write Inc phrases that keep children engaged and interactive. And some of these are things such as fantastic or hip, hip, hooray, where we're celebrating the success of each part of the lesson. At the end of the initial sound, we might say one of these phrases. At the end of looking at the picture cards, we'd say another phrase. At the end of looking at the word cards, we'd once again say one of these celebration phrases. Try to encourage this with your children at home and maybe come up with some of your own suggestions. It doesn't have to be the Read Write Inc phrases that you're using. With lots of consistency and practice, your children will be well supported and start to read these words by sight. Once they're able to do that, they'll begin to be reading books and they'll begin to be able to read print within the environment. We hope these strategies will help you at home and encourage you to share Read Write Inc training with your children and begin to share books and stories together.